In today's lesson, we will be learning about data types, focusing specifically on strings. We will also cover concatenation in Python. We've already covered some basic information about variables, and you now know that variables are used to store values. These values, or values that are used directly without being assigned to variables, can differ depending on what you are trying to achieve. For example, you might store someone's name, the title of a book, or an email address as text. At other times, you might store numbers that you later use to calculate a total, work out an average, or keep track of a score. Today, we will be focusing on text values, known as strings. A string is a sequence of characters surrounded by quotation marks. In Python, you can create a string using single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes for multi-line text. Here, you can see 5 values. Depending on the data type you choose to store these values, you will be able to use different built-in features. So before you start building your program, you need to decide how each value should be stored. Ask yourself a question. Will the value for age change over time? Or will you use it to compare with other numeric values? If that is the case, then a string is not a good choice, and you would instead use a different data type, which we will talk about next time. This is important because if you add 2 strings together, even if they contain numbers, the program will not perform a calculation. Instead, it will simply join them together, concatenate them, rather than adding them mathematically. Sometimes we need to work with text that spans multiple lines, such as poems, for example. In Python, there are 2 common ways to do this. One way is to use triple quotes. When using triple quotes, it is important to make sure that the opening and closing quotes match. Another way is to use the new line character, which tells Python to move the text to a new line inside a string. The new line character is an example of an escape character. Escape characters in Python are special combinations used inside strings to represent characters that are difficult to type directly or that have a special meaning in Python, such as new lines, stops, or quotation marks. So far, we displayed literal values directly on the screen or printed the values stored in variables separately. However, in real programs, we often want to display a combination of hard-coded text and values stored in variables. There are 3 common ways to combine them. The first method is to separate the values with a comma. When you use commas in a print statement, Python automatically inserts a space between each item. This makes it a simple and convenient way to display text and variables together. The second method is concatenation. Remember, concatenation means joining strings together. When using concatenation, you use the plus operator to combine strings. Unlike commas, Python does not add spaces for you, so you need to include them yourself. Otherwise, all the text will be joined together as one word. It's also important to remember that concatenation only works with strings. If one of the values is a number, Python will produce an error unless you first convert that number into a string. We will learn how to do that later in the course. The first method is called an f-string, which stands for formatted string. F-strings provide a clean and readable way to combine text with variable values. They are widely used in modern Python, and we will cover them in detail later in the course. To summarize, remember that strings must always be written inside quotes. You must also make sure that you start and end a string using the same type of quote. As a general best practice, choose either single or double quotes and stick to one style consistently throughout your code. Both work the same way in Python, but consistency makes your code cleaner and easier to read. To finish this lesson, let's take a step back and think about something important in programming. One of the key ideas in Python is that code should not just work, it should also be easy to read and understand. That's why I want to end with one of the guiding principles from Python, known as the Zen of Python. Readability counts.